scratching their heads a little bit, because initially it was the nurses and we were told, well, look, it'll be done almost in a benevolent way. There'll be people there to cover for them. It'll be a short, sharp hit. But now we're looking at 6 unions in total, which includes paramedics, ambulance technicians, 999 call handlers, porters and cleaners. And this really is looking like a coordinated strike, which could, frankly, cripple the NHS. And that's not on, really, is it?
Well, I certainly agree with you that it's not consistent with the values of the people who work in the health service, from the senior doctors right through the staff of the health service to the porters and the administrative staff and everyone. It's not consistent with their values to withdraw support from people of the kind you were describing in your introduction, people with strokes or heart attacks or emergency health needs. So whatever that happens in this dispute, and I very much hope that people will continue, as Steve Barclay said, to walk through his door and resolve it without a strike. Whatever happens, it clearly is necessary to ensure that urgent and emergency need continues to be met.
Yes, but this is a problem, because a lot of people were thinking when it came to the nurses' strike, well, all right, some people will miss out on chemo, some people will miss out on dialysis, and that was bad enough. But we were told, well, the emergency side of things won't be affected. But now it definitely will be, if indeed they do go on strike. Because if someone needs to call an ambulance, there might not be someone there to answer their call. There might not be anyone there to drive the ambulance. We're already hearing the ambulance waiting times are through the roof as it is. And from a purely moral perspective, I don't see how these people can do that and expect to get away with it without massive medical negligence claims.
Well, we don't yet know what we don't yet have a dispute with people beyond the nursing staff. And what we do have is unhappiness at the terms and conditions that are being offered by the health service. And we're seeing that not just in the preparations for an industrial dispute, also, of course, in the fact that the health service is currently unable to recruit the people it needs to be able to deliver the quality of care we all want to see. So whether you look at it from the point of view of trade union representatives or from the straight availability of staff to meet need, the health service does need to address the question of the terms and conditions of the people who work in it.
I get that, absolutely. But is it also, frankly, doing a number on itself? I mean, the PR operation, the anti-PR operation with our NHS at the moment is mega. Basically, everyone who's working in it who's part of a union is saying to everybody else, don't work in this, it's terrible. You won't have a life, you will be underpaid and overworked, etc. Please don't work here. And then they seem to be mesmerised and the fact that they haven't got enough people to fill vacancies, etc. Can I just say I've been doing, shockingly, I did a bit of research before I came on here. The average salary for a paramedic in the London area...
Don't make a habit of it, Patrick.
No, trust me, I won't. No, the average salary for a paramedic in the London area is $36,200. The average salary for an emergency ambulance technician, apparently, again, these is official stats, $30,100. People will be saying, well, the NHS now has got more funding than it ever has before, yet they seem to be unable to conduct as many basic treatments, operations, for example, down 5.3% since pre-pandemic levels. And those numbers don't really add up.
Well, I think there's two sets of numbers there. First of all, there's the numbers around the employment, the pay levels of people in particular positions in the health service. And clearly the health service, people who work in the health service, like everybody else in our society, are facing huge pressures on their domestic bills, whether it's their energy bills or their food bills and so forth. And like everyone else, they've got to make their household budgets balance. And that's the challenge the health service has to face if it's going to recruit the people that it needs. That's one set of issues. Then the other set you quite rightly raise is around the activity levels in particular. When you talk about procedures, operations, you're talking primarily about people off waiting lists. And we're seeing here that waiting lists are at the highest ever level, and that's part of the demand pattern being placed on the health service. But it's when you look at the health service, you have to look at the people waiting for on waiting lists. You also have to look clearly, as you have been, at the demand in the A&E departments and the ambulance services and in primary care GP services and in social care. The thing we often forget in these conversations is that when social care isn't able to do its job for a variety of reasons, the demand ends up in the health service.
Well, it does.
So all of these need to be considered as a whole, not as single pots, separate silos.
It does. And, of course, the knock-on effect of what might be non-emergency, quotes, non-essential treatment now, if that's not treated, then that can become very serious and it becomes a bigger problem down the line. Just some of those numbers again quickly. The NHS has apparently treated 5.3% fewer people than during, this is in 2022 so far, than during the same period in 2019. Meanwhile, supposedly anyway, the health services day-to-day budget is up 12% compared with before the pandemic. Can I just ask a question? Are we missing an elephant in the room here, which is population growth? They are now being asked to treat many more people. Are we missing this, do you think? Is this not discussed enough that there actually is so much more demand now? Part of that is driven through things like mass immigration.
Well, I don't think the biggest element on increased demand is migration. Actually, I think the biggest element it's been true for a long time that the health service has faced rising demand. Most importantly, because we're all living longer. The good news is we live longer. The bad news is that as we live longer, we need more health service and social care services. So we're seeing a rise in the budget to meet the demands right across health and social care. And as you quite rightly say, when we don't meet demands for people who actually could lead normal, reasonably healthy lives with a bit of support from social care, when we don't meet those needs, they become unnecessarily, avoidably ill, and they end up in the health service.
Yeah, and if you are just joining us, thank you very much, by the way. That was former health